Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Industry Podcast, where this week we sit down with Derrick Ginter and he tells us about the radio broadcast industry.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Industry Podcast. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Could you give us a quick intro, like your name, title, and a little bit of what you do here?
My name is Derrick Ginter. My title is General Manager, and I do as little as possible.
Yeah?
As manager, the students do all the work, and I take all the credit. That's what I do.
I call you DG.
Mm-hmm. You can call me DG. Just don't call me late for dinner.
Why do we call you that? I'd like to have a little preface there to
really?
why we call you DG.
Do you know the story? Did I tell you the story?
Yeah, the other day, but...
So when I'm not doing radio work, in the spring I chase weather for a local TV station. And the meteorologist for said TV station just called me DG one day on the air. So I'm chasing tornadoes and, DG, what's going on out there? And it's stuck. And it's been 20 some odd years. So I just went with it. I was like, I'm not going to fight it. DG sounds fine to me.
I want you to tell us real quick about your feelings of the radio industry. What got you into this?
Laziness, basically. I really fell into it. If you had told me I was going to be in radio as a career, I would have laughed at you. But I have always been jealous of people who knew what they wanted to do or be when they grew up. You know, I'm going to be a fireman. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a lawyer. Okay. I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I still don't. I just happen to be doing radio right now. That's what I find myself doing. But I fell into it, really. Radio, it turns out, has always been something I've been involved with. I was a police dispatcher, 911 operator for about 5 years. I've been an amateur radio operator, so I've got my ham ticket, ham license. So I've got a big radio set up at my house, so I talk on the long wire, as we say. Some of the interests that I've had in my life have always had a radio component. So, chasing weather, severe weather has always been something I've been fascinated with, and I've been doing that since 1989. And the team that I would go out with, there was a group of us that would go out and we would communicate via two-way radio. So I've always had some sort of radio aspect in my life. I didn't really start broadcast radio until the mid-90s. And my sum total time at KTXT was, I think I did 2 newscasts. That was it. That was all of my time on 88.1. And if you'd told me I would be managing the station one day, I'd just laugh at you because I was like, no, there's no way. I was general manager at KOHM for almost 10 years. And that would seem to imply that most of my radio experience is now commercial, but I actually worked in commercial radio. I was at KFYO for several years. I was a news director at KRBL FM downtown for a few years. Most of my experience and expertise is on the technical side. I'm more of an engineering type. I didn't have much to do with sales. And my on-air work, it was fun. It was mostly fun. One of the most enjoyable things I had, excuse me, I worked with another broadcast legend here, Jerry Brownlow, who was also a member of the Maines Brothers Band. And he and I did a morning show on the Rebel, and it was great. He was a man of 1,000 voices, and it was always fun working with him. I just mainly read news. I think I was holding down 3 part-time radio jobs at the time. So I've got some radio experience. I'm not the best DJ. I'm not the most memorable DJ. Most people probably have no idea who I am, and I'm okay with that.
So I know, Connor, you got pulled up in their list of DG's past current positions and such. Would you like to dive into that?
Yeah, well, he's got a ton on the tech website. So
really?
Yes, sir, you do.
Maybe out of date.
Well, the one I'm wanting to ask you about is in 2007, I saw that you became a member of the Military Auxiliary Radio System.
MARS, yes.
Yes, sir. Will you tell me about your time with them?
Well, I could tell you, and then I'd have to kill you. No, I'm kidding. So it turns out that the military has a civilian radio component, and I guess that's probably the best way to put it. So it used to be military amateur radio service, but it's now military auxiliary radio service. And back in the old days, say during the Vietnam War, you could call long distance, but it was so expensive. You just couldn't do that. You couldn't pick up a phone and dial home, and if you were a service member returning from war and you wanted to tell, your family, meet me at the airport, you had to do that in a letter and just hope that hope the letter got there in time for them to pick you up at the airport or whatever. But what Mars did back in the old days is they would provide. Are y'all familiar with MASH? Did y'all ever watch MASH, the sitcom? Yeah,
there's the show.
So. Yeah, the show MASH. So there was a guy called Radar. He was the radio operator for the MASH hospital, and he was always arranging these calls back to the United States. That's pretty much what the Mars guys did. So they would have these radio stations, these amateur radio stations around the world, and it would just be a series of these stations where service members could actually make a phone call back to the United States absolutely free. And that was one of the services that Mars provided, these amateur radio operators. They would allow service members to call home. Of course, now with the advent of the internet and email, Mars is a completely different mission. We actually do a lot of digital communication now. A lot of what we do is as a backup to what the military is doing with HF, high frequency communication. The radio systems we use talk over the horizon. In other words, I can talk from my house to both coasts of the United States. I mean, it's pretty cool stuff. But we're basically an auxiliary to the military. We do whatever they need us to do, and our primary mission is communication. So if we need to deliver messages, we send that traffic to wherever it needs to go. That's the short, quick, simple version of what we do with Mars.
Okay. Thank you. And going off that experience, I see you have multiple accomplishments. Will you tell me one of your favorite experiences here at Tech, whether it's within radio or sports or Storm or just some story you could give us that'll entertain the class?
Well, I will take credit. When I was at KOHM, we gosh, how do I say this coherently? I sound like an idiot right now. We actually put Lubbock's first HD radio station on the air. KOHM was Lubbock's first digital radio station. Okay. And by digital, I mean you have to have a digital receiver in order to pick it up. Most radio is analog. Even the car radio in your vehicle is analog. But you have to have a special digital receiver in order to receive HD radio. And I will take credit for instigating what it took to get a new HD radio put in Lubbock. Now, from the big city, Dallas, Houston, Austin, HD radio is fairly common, but in West Texas it wasn't. Mm-hmm. In fact, there's only one other radio group now that has it, and I think it's Raymar Communication. All of his stations went HD finally, and so but we had Lubbock's only HD signal for many, many years.
Being the industry podcast, we dive into each industry here,
Sure.
and I know at least Yana here has some questions regarding the industry itself. If you want to get into that.
Oh boy, hit me.
Okay, yeah. So a main question I have for you is where do you see the radio in the next few years, especially with people graduating now and going into it?
It's going to be interesting. Radio is still going to be around in some form or fashion, just like newspapers are. It's just not going to be a mainstream medium like it was back in its heyday. And the internet is taking that over. Social media is now where things are. So one of the things that I'm trying to position the radio station is to take advantage of social media, and we're heavy into social media. In fact, in that studio, you'll see there's a camera on the wall. We've got one in this studio as well, because we do Facebook Live video for some of our live shows. And, if you told me I'd be doing that, wait, video in a studio? No, that's called television. Well, no, it's not. It's social media. And we do as much social media as we do radio, broadcast. What's interesting to me is in young people today, if I say radio, what does that mean to y'all? It doesn't mean anything. But if I say social media, yeah, you get it. So I'm still old school where I refer to it as radio and television, because in my mind there's separate and distinct mediums of communication, whereas in your day today, it's all on this platform. As long as it's on your cell phone, who cares? It's not television, it's social media. And social media seems to encapsulate everything now. So the future of radio, I think, is still going to be strong, but it's not going to be. It's kind of like newspapers. They're past their prime. it'll still be around in some form or fashion, and that's kind of where we are now. But radio in and of itself it's obsolete. It pains me to say this, but I mean, I'd be a complete fool to pretend otherwise. Radio ain't like it used to be, and I was there when it changed. One of the things I've witnessed over my lifetime and career is the change in radio over the years, and maybe we can talk about that here in just a little bit.
I know we'd like to kind of bring it into advice for people wanting to get into this industry. And I was going to say, for students at the college right now, at any level of class, how can they get involved here at KTXT?
Oh, well, I was going to say, you're fortunate because our college, we've got numerous ways of student involvement. If you're looking for experience, practical, our college has it covered. There's lots of ways you can get involved. Now, KTXT, and I'm biased, KTXT is perhaps the best one. I'm just saying. Yeah, we have volunteers that work here. Not all of our students are from our college. They're not even broadcast majors. They're not COMC majors. The radio station is open to all Texas Tech students, so any student at Texas Tech is allowed to volunteer or work here. But you will have opportunities working at KTXT that you won't have elsewhere. This is a fully licensed FCC licensed broadcast facility. We have an FCC license. You can go on the air right now, and people in Lubbock will hear you on their radios. Can you do that in television locally? Probably not, unless you're in a car wreck, and then that way you're going to, you'll be on the 6 o'clock news for being in a car wreck. But you won't be on the news desk. We have students read news. Our students do play-by-play for some of the Texas Tech athletic events. This semester we're covering softball. We also cover volleyball, and we also cover soccer in the fall. That's always fun. So our students actually call the games. It's our students that are doing the play-by-play. Our students are here in the studio getting that information out, and we broadcast it just as if a sports station was going to do that. We've got students who do the news. We have newscasts throughout the day. We have a music director that's getting our music lined up. We have students most of our volunteers are acting as DJs. They actually do a DJ shift where they play music off the computer and have fun. They play their favorite music. There's all kinds of ways. Ryan here is our production director. You produce stuff, right?
Yes, all the time.
All the time, he says. I'm always like, what have you produced for me lately? Nothing. I haven't heard it. Let me hear it, Yeah, we train our students on how to edit audio, how to produce content. And this doesn't just have applications in the broadcast business, but like I say, if you're interested in going into movies or television or, podcasting or vlogging or whatever, sound is a very important part of that. And that's basically what, that's the centerpiece of what we train our students is how the sound is, how to do sound, how to sound good, how to write for sound, how to edit sound, how to record sound, what to do with the sound. Radio just happens to be a very small snippet of what we actually do here. But lots of opportunities. In fact, my job is to basically ask the question, what is it you're interested in doing? And then we figure out a way of making that happen here at the station. We don't just do radio.
Sweet.
So,
and to end it off here, what advice do you have, whether it be in radio, storm spotting, or just life in general, that you can give to our listeners?
Keep it locked to the left.
Hey. That works for me, but if you want to go into
more?
it,
More?
No, sure. No, I like that. That'd be a fun way to end it if we could. But
stay informed. There's numerous communication channels out there for which you can participate, but just be careful. There's a lot of misinformation out there as well, and that's a subject for another podcast.
Sweet. Well, thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Glad to have been part of it.
That's all we have for today, so make sure you tune in again next week for a brand new episode.